All right, welcome to Pro Football, first 50 years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. Now, I'm strictly talking the first 50 years, from 1920 to 1970. And especially if you're going to go back and try to check out a game from like the 20s or the 30s. I mean, obviously, you go online and find, the box score, who won, who lost, who scored a touchdown, how far a field goal was that somebody kicked, where the game was played at, what the attendance was. You might find starting lineups for each team, but exactly what happened during the game? Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every game during the first 50 years of professional football. Now, a little news flash here for you. Ain't no fancy videos or nothing like that. All there is you have me for the next 30 to 60 minutes, so that's all right with you. Let's get it on in today's game. We got a rematch. Third week into the season, and it's a rematch already. Whew, go figure that, huh? This time the Baltimore Colts visit the Detroit Lions at Briggs Stadium, Navien Field, or Tiger Stadium. There won't be a quiz on this at the end, I promise you. October 11th, 1959. These two teams met first week of the 1959 season. The Lions had an early lead. Their offense just bogged down, and good old Johnny U took over, and the Colts scored 3 touchdowns and marched on to victory. But a little funny thing happened in week 2. The Colts actually lost, so they were 1-1. A common theme for this season, shall we say, for the Detroit Lions in week 2, they lost. But they lost to the Green Bay Packers, which at the time was a little bit embarrassing because the Packers in 1958 were absolutely abysmal. But with the coach Vince Lombardi taking over, this is a whole new regime, whole new Packer team. They found ways to win. So the Lions were sitting at 0-2. The Colts were sitting at 1-1. And actually, the Colts actually found themselves not in first place. That would go to the 49ers and the Packers after 2 weeks, who were both 2-0. And the Packers and the 49ers play each other in week 3, with the Packers coming out victorious. And after only a 12-team, obviously, right, league, 6 teams in the Eastern Division, 6 teams in the Western Division. After 3 weeks, there was only one team that was undefeated. That would be the Green Bay Packers. So, and the Packers were going to lose, go on a little bit of a losing streak. They would lose 5 games in a row. Then they would win their final 4 to finish 7-5. But this game here would find the Baltimore Colts not at the top at 1-1. So they were, as we'll see right here, they after 7 weeks, they were 2 games out of first place. So they had to fight for their lives just to get back to the top. So this was a big game for them. It was also a big game for the Lions, but the Lions, after 4 weeks, let's pull this up here, right? I mean, the Lions just, after 4 weeks, basically the Lions were almost out of any competition at all for winning the division. I mean, the Lions had a night. Also notice that they played 7 preseason games, 12 regular season games, 7 preseason games. Try doing that nowadays, huh? That ain't happening. But they had somewhat of a successful, exhibition season. Now this is wrong here. I don't know. Pro Football Archives cares. I don't know how to contact them or whatever, but this is wrong. The Lions did not beat the Cardinals 21-19. They lost to the Cardinals 21-19. So, but regardless of that, the out of 7 games preseason, the Lions won 4. They were 4-2-1. So they had a pretty doggone successful exhibition season. But once you'll see, once they got into the regular season, they lost the first 4 games of the year. Now they wound up losing to 4 very good teams. Obviously, 2 times, spoiler alert, this game was more interesting than the 21-9 game. This one was 31-24. But I mean, the Lions would lose 2 times to the Colts, who were the defending NFL champions and who would be the repeat champions in 1959. They would lose to a much improved Green Bay Packer team on the road, and then they would lose to a 49er team who wound up the season 7-5. But after 7 weeks, the San Francisco 49ers were actually 6-1. They were sitting atop of the Western Division, and they would fall. The 49ers would fall apart at the end. But I mean, the Lions would lose to 4 very, very good teams. But I mean, in a 12-game schedule, I mean, to be honest with you, you lose the first 4 games, you pretty much take yourself out of the running for any hopes. I mean, you would have to run the rest of the games. You would have to win the final 8 games, and hope that the team, at the top, had quite a few losses. Obviously the Colts won the division. They weren't undefeated, but they only had 3 losses. So as you see right here, I mean, and in the Eastern Division, the Giants had the best record in the NFL. They were 10-2. So for the most part, of course, at the time, after losing 4 games, the Lions didn't have a crystal ball. Oh, we lost 4 games already. The Colts are only going to wind up losing 3. We don't have a chance. But I mean, it was a very, very disappointing season, especially for the 1957 NFL champion Detroit Lions. I mean, they only won 3 games all year, and the 3 games they won was against the Rams, who won 2 games all year. Then they beat the Rams, who won only 2 games all year. Then we come down here, and then they beat the Cardinals, who won only 2 games all year. So even when they were beating teams in the regular season, they were beating very bad teams. I mean, a very, very disappointing season for the Detroit Lions. On the Colts, on the other hand, obviously, it was a very successful season. But as you'll see, they had a very good preseason. The first 2 weeks, they beat the College All-Stars 29-0. Then they whooped up on my Giants 28-3. Then they beat the Redskins. Then they beat a very good Pittsburgh Steelers team once again. This is exhibition now. Then they lost their final 2. But they had 4-2 in preseason. But these first, what was it? Oh, they'd be 57-3. They outscored their first 2 opponents. So 57-3. Okay, if we do this route, 57-3, 6 to be 80-13. They won their first 3 games, 80-13 in exhibition. So. But as we see here, in week 2, they would lose to a very good Bears team. So they were 1-1. So, this obviously in a 12-game schedule, every game is extremely important. This was extremely important for the Lions, too. Don't get me wrong. But, this was the Colts, after 2 weeks, were 1-1. They lost this and they were 1-2. Because it wound up being a very tight race for the Western Division. The Colts were obviously be on top. They were 9-3. The Bears struggled really early, but then they ran off a bunch of games at the end of the season. They would finish 8-4. And then the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers would finish tied for third place. They were both 7-5. So it was a very tight race. So, the fact that the Colts lost 3 games during this, it made it very, very tight race. So this was a very, very important game here, as we say. As I say, spoiler alert, the Baltimore Colts wind up winning 31-24. And if you hear any strange noises in the background, like somebody just hocking up a loogie or something, that's my dog Randy. But this game was played at Briggs. Zoom out there, right? Briggs Stadium. Or Tiger Stadium, or we'll show you. It was known as Navin Field. That's the Detroit Panthers played there, who were a team in the NFL in the 1920s, I believe, for 2 seasons, 25 and 26. They came within the Detroit Panthers of about 5 minutes or so of winning the championship. They gave up a touchdown late in the season. They were up 3-0, and they gave up a touchdown with about 5 minutes or so to go in a game they played at home, and they wound up losing the game 6-3. Had they been able to hold on and pitch a shutout in that game, they would have finished with 9 wins and 1 loss, and they would have been your 1925 NFL champions. But since they did lose, they just knocked themselves out of contention for the title, which went to the Chicago Cardinals. But anyway, Game was played at Tiger Stadium, Briggs Stadium, Navin Field, all the same. All the same. So, Tiger Stadium, previously known as Navin Field, and Briggs Stadium, was a multi-use stadium located in the Corktown neighborhood of Detroit, Michigan. The stadium was nicknamed The Corner for its location at the intersection of Michigan and Trumbull Avenues. So we hosted the Detroit Tigers from 1912 to 1999. It's 87 years. Of course, maybe that might be 88 seasons. I mean, oof. And of course, the Detroit Lions from 38, 39, from 1941 to 1974. The last Tiger game was at the stadium was held on September 27, 1999. It's a shame. In the decade after the Tigers vacated the stadium, several rejected redevelopment and preservation efforts finally gave way to the stadium's demolition. It's a shame. It really, really is. It's a shame because it opened up the same time that Fenway Park did. Now, to me, this is where I grew up watching the Lions play here, Tiger Stadium. Obviously, the Tigers playing there. I mean, it's a shame they couldn't keep it. As I said, I mean, Fenway Park's still around. It's a shame that they couldn't keep all these old-time parks, but it is what it is. All right, so the Oranges. In 1895, the Detroit Tigers owner George Vanderbeck had a new stadium built at the corner of Michigan and Trumbull Avenues. The stadium was called Bennett Park and featured a wooden grandstand. Talk about a fire hazard. With wooden peaked roof in the outfield. At the time, some places in the outfield were only marked off with rope. In 1911, new Tigers owner Frank Navin Field, right, ordered a new steel and concrete baseball park to be built on the same site that would seat 23,000 to accommodate the growing numbers of fans. Navin Field opened on April 20th, 1912, in the same day as Fenway Park in Boston. Let's see. Shoeless Joe Jackson, later banned from baseball, scored the first run at Navin Field. Over the years, expansion continued to accommodate more spectators. In 1935, following Navin's death, new owner Walter Briggs Stadium, right? Walter Briggs Sr. oversaw the expansion of Navin Field to a capacity of 36,000 by extending the upper deck to the foul poles and across right field. Then by 1938, the city agreed just to move a street. Just take Cherry Street. We'll just move it. Allowing the left field seats to be double-decked. And now the renamed Briggs Stadium had a capacity of 53,000. Now we're talking. 1961, new owner John Fetzer took control of the stadium and gave it its final and longest-lasting name, Tiger Stadium. Let's see. Unfortunately, by the early 1990s, it was clear that Tiger Stadium was at the end of its useful life, sadly. Both the city and Tigers ownership wanted a new park, but many campaigned to save the old stadium. That's what I would prefer, but sometimes I guess it's almost maybe cheaper, maybe safer, just to knock it down and build a new one, I guess. Let's see, ground was broken for a new ballpark on October 29th, 1997. Here we go, Bennett Park. Look at that. On October 12, 1907, during a World Series game between the Tigers and the Cubs. Crazy. Wow. Due to then-owner Walter Briggs' dislike of night baseball, lights were not installed at the stadium until 1948. Of course, then we have here, right? Professional football. The Tiger Stadium was home to the Detroit Lions from 1938 to 39, 1941 to 74, The stadium hosted 2 NFL championship games in 53 and 57. Both games the Lions would wind up winning. 53 they won 17-16, and 1957 they won 59-14. The football field ran mostly in the outfield from right field to left center field. I got to show you some pictures to see how the football field was laid out. But unfortunately for me, and this is just, I can't even talk about it. In the early 70s, the city of Pontiac and its community leaders made a presentation to the Metropolitan Stadium Committee of a 155-acre site. Initially, a dual stadium complex was planned that included a moving roof that was later scrapped due to high cost and lack of commitment from the Tigers. The Metropolitan Stadium Committee voted unanimously for the Pontiac site. In 1973, ground was broken for a stadium to exclusively house the Lions. Lions played their final game at Tiger Stadium on Thanksgiving Day, November 28, 1974, against the Denver Broncos. I remember watching that game. I didn't know at the time that would be their final game there. Once again, to me, football is supposed to be played outside in the weather elements on grass, not indoors on artificial turf. No, absolutely freaking not. But it is what it is. I mean, a lot of things. Boxing was there. The University of Notre Dame played the University of Detroit at Briggs Stadium. Yeah. Soccer was played there. Kills played there. It's like, oh my goodness, who's who played at this field. I mean, I was talking Ty Cobb and Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig. Oh my God. As I said there, on May 2nd, 1939, ailing New York Yankees first baseman Lou Gehrig voluntarily benched himself at Briggs Stadium, ending his streak of consecutive games. Sadly, very, very sadly, due to the progression of the disease named after him, it was the final game of his career. Absolute freaking shame. Final game for the Tigers was September 27, 1999. And of course, then you got the demolition of it. The site in October 2011. Redevelopment during the summer of 2010. A group called itself the Navenfield Grounds Crew began maintaining the playing field and hosting vintage baseball games and softball there. 2014, a project to redevelop the old Tiger Stadium site was approved. Development plans including a 4-story building along Michigan Avenue with about 30,000 square feet of retail space. 24 townhomes are planned, blah, 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 blah. So, Raging Bull was there, all kinds of things. Obviously when a stadium and you're around that long, I mean, my goodness. But just think, like the 71 All-Star game was played there. Oh my goodness. I can't remember how many. It was like 20 Hall of Famers. I mean, it's like unbelievable. The players that played in that game at Tiger Stadium. Reggie Jackson hit one over the right field roof off of Doc Ellis, I think it was. I mean, oh my goodness. Wow. All right, so we got some pictures here, showing you like the layout of the land and all that and everything. And then we'll dive into the game. Let's see, where are we at here? Detroit Lions at Briggs Stadium. All right, here we go. I can't tell. It's kind of tough here because obviously the team in the dark jersey would be the Lions. It's kind of tough to tell. I mean, this could be the Colts that they're playing here. It's kind of tough. I wish the game was the picture was a little bit closer. It could be the Colts. May not be though. Let's say, here's the grounds crew, and I mean, this, how cool is this, right? Grounds crew marking the lines for the Lions. Right, so you got the goal line right here, right, and then you got it's just pipes. It's all it was is pipes, right? And the pipes came over and straight up a certain amount of feet, and of course it was right on top of the goal line right here. But then of course then right here they put a bunch of padding. Here's a I can kind of show it here. This is the infield, right? So I got right around down here is around first base, and you can see the goalpost here, and it runs out there, out to left field. But you can see how far away the fans are. This is one of those things that winds up happening many times when you have these the football games played inside of a baseball field, multi-purpose stadium. I mean, you can see how far away. Like if the game's all the way in the corner over here, we got something better over here. Maybe not. How about this one here? Yeah, I mean, you see, like if you're way up over here, it's good distance there. Is this one? What do we got here? There we are. Those are Polo Grounds. All right, here we go. This is Lions, so this has got to be Detroit. You have Reggie Jackson hit one over the roof over here. 1971 All-Star game. As I said, you can see, you can see the sideline there. You see the people like way over here. I mean, nowadays, like, in just many of the stadiums, they're not multi-purpose. They're all either a football stadium or a baseball stadium. Obviously the people are much closer to the field there. This is a big gap. The same thing here. You see the sideline right here. You see it all the way over here. That may not look like it, but that's a nice distance. And I said, the game is played down here, and you're down by the goal line over here, and you're way over here in the outfield. You're a good distance away. Let's see here. You can see the people sitting here. Oh, here you go, 1959 Thanksgiving Day game. Okay, here you go. All right. So you're sitting over here in the sidelines way over here. And this is, I obviously don't know how far this is, but that's a good chunk of real estate. What do we got here? All right, here's a program from 1959 Detroit Lion program versus the Rams at Briggs Stadium. 1961, that's when it changed its name to Tiger Stadium. There we got it. This one here. 1952, Briggs Stadium. Where's the Bears? Now, see how high he's skying? Now, once again, you see the goalpost there? They're just pipes. That's all they are. It's just freaking pipes. See all the padding put around there? As you run into that, boy, you're running into a metal pipe. Whew. So they did a good job of wrapping this up here. But you see how high he's skying? I wonder if the ball got passed over the goalpost and into his hand right there. He's the dude. You see how high up in the air he is, right? He's got to be a couple of feet off the ground, it looks like right there at least. And he's jumping up here to his highest height. Wow. Let's see what else we got here. This is, once again, day at Briggs Stadium, 1959 with a capacity crowd. Yeah, see, you can see the big gap here. And see over here, hey, you see the sideline there? That's a big, big gap. Let's see. Anything else? Yeah, There you go. Pride of Detroit, the Lions. Taking on that. This game was not 1959 because the Lions did not play. Well, let's see. They did play the Browns at home, though, during preseason. So I don't know. I don't know if this is the preseason or not, from 1959. That I don't know. But here's good old Bobby Lane. All right, so let's go. just to make a classic stadium. And just, but unfortunately, most of them just can't hold up forever. It is what it is. But let's see what we got. We got a couple articles here for the pregame. So let's go to the October 11, 1959 edition of the Baltimore Sun. Colts were favored in this game, so if you're going to bet any money, Colts are favored. Actually, I think it's 6. They were 6.5 point favorite, so they just covered. Colts just covered. They won by 7. I think it's 6.5 point favorite. So let me hear. If I remember correctly. Okay, here we go. All right. 6 points. 6 points. Okay, 6 points. Continue from the first sports page. Let's see if I can get back to the first. I must have missed that. There we go. No, that's not it. There we go. All right. Okay. 2 important questions will be answered at Briggs Stadium tomorrow afternoon when the Colts play the Lions before a Motor City crowd of 55,000. The first is, will the Colts shake the lethargy that has haunted them for most of the 2 previous games? Since now, they lost in week 2. Now, the first half of week 1 at home, they were really outplayed by the Lions. Lions were leading, I think, 3-0 going into halftime. The Lions should have had a bigger lead. But regardless whether they should have had a bigger lead or not, the Lions were much better in the first half than the Colts were. Took the Colts into the second half. So the Colts really only haven't played much good football in the first 2 weeks. They wound up being fortunate to be 1-1. Let's see. And start playing championship football from the opening kickoff at 2:30 o'clock. The experts think so. They have installed the Colts as a 6-point favorite. So the Colts would just cover. The second, can the Lions, now losers in 2 straight games, find their wherewithal to win and avoid nearly certain elimination from the Western Division race of the National Football League? As I said, you lose 4, especially the first 4, you're almost eliminated. For the thousands of Baltimore fans who will be watching the game over WMAR TV, Channel 2, the second question is minor and depends on the first. To the loyal Detroit fans, the second question is most important, with the first question only incidental. Detroit gained the lead. Just the same, the Colts, 1958 Pro Champions, must start playing football for 60 minutes. In their first 2 games, a 21-9 victory over the Lions and a 26-21 loss to the Bears, the Colts have played just 30 out of 120 minutes. The kind of football that brought Baltimore its first grid title. So as I said, the 30 minutes, I think maybe they're referring to, I don't know if they're referring to 15 minutes in the Bears game and 15 minutes or so in the first game against the Lions, but they were outplayed, especially in the game against the Lions in the first half. In the first game between the Lions and the Colts, the Detroit and we got televised, right? Colts versus Lions at Detroit. So if you're living in Baltimore on October 11, 1959, Channel 2 is where you want to watch the game. And it's free, too. There's no direct TV, there's no cable, none of that. It's free, the way it should be. Where are we at here? The Detroit squad gained a 9-0 lead a third of the way through the third quarter. Then the Colts rallied, scoring 3 times in a 15-minute stretch. So possibly they're talking about the 15-minute stretch that they scored 3 touchdowns in. Against the Bears last week in Baltimore, the Colts watched the Chicagoans bound away to a 26-0 lead after 3 quarters and then rallied for 3 futile last period touchdowns. to make it 26-21. Many reasons have been advanced for the Colts' slow start in both games. They range from complacency to old age for the veteran squad. Quarterback Johnny Unitas has been cited as being off the mark with his tosses. Now, he didn't necessarily throw interceptions, but his completion percentage in the first week against Detroit was not very good at all. The offensive line has been blamed for permitting blitzing linebackers to harass Unitas. The defense, both the line and secondary, were faulted for not putting the pressure on the opponents. Whatever the cause for the slow starts, the Colts must be ready to go from opening whistle tomorrow, or the chance of repeating as champions will become mighty slim. Only one Colt is a casualty. That is Burt Rechichar, versatile veteran who will not suit up. He has a nasty pulled muscle in his leg. Meanwhile, the Lions say Charlie Ann, veteran center, and Terry Barr, defensive back, may sit out the game with injuries. They were hurt in Detroit's 28-10 loss to the Green Bay Packers. Otherwise, the two teams that faced each other in the opener will be virtually the same. George Wilson, coach of the Lions, said he won't announce his starting quarterback until game time. His regular signal caller, Tobin Road, has been off form, and Wilson has been displeased. The other Lion quarterback is Earl Morrall. After the blitzing linebackers the Bears used so successfully in putting pressure on Unitas last week, the Lions were bound to try the same thing, and Detroit has one of the best linebackers in the business in Joe Schmidt. Oh yeah, I mean, we're talking, I mean, you look at, I can show you. I mean, we got Hall of Famers through and through both these squads. Colts won't be without a rooting section at Briggs Stadium. Colts corrals number 1 and 2 will be in full force, and a couple of hundred Baltimoreans can make themselves heard even in the midst of 55,000 Detroiters. So here's the lineup, and you'll notice one thing too, right? This is the whole team, 36 players. Yeah, nowadays you got a 53-man squad, then you got the practice squad of like 17 players. So you basically have about 70 guys, right? But and you're 53 men on the roster. You only dress 46. Well, here they only had 36 guys, right? But if you'll notice, right, you got Alex Karras, Hall of Famer, Joe Schmidt, Hall of Famer, Yale Larry, Hall of Famer, and Dick LeBeau. I guess. Let me see here. Well, yeah, he's on the team. Okay, he only played in 6 games all year. I'm not sure. That I don't know. So please forgive me. I don't know if he is injured or what. But Dick LeBeau played and started in 6 games. So they have 4 Hall of Famers on this team on the defense. 4. So Lions always had a really good defense. Over here, of course, they have 2. Or Donovan and Gino Marchetti. So that's, so if you include LeBeau, that's 6. Of course, then you got Jim Parker, that's 7. Raymond Berry is 8. Got some guy by the name of Johnny Unitas, that's 9. Lenny Moore, that's number 10. Let's see, John Henry Johnson, that's 11. I think that's it. Then you got Weeb Bubank, that's 12. If you count the coach. Let's see, LeBeau. Is LeBeau here? He must be hurt, maybe. Because he's not even... Oh, wait. LeBeau, is he here? Yeah, he said he must be hurt because he's not even listed here. But, so a lot of Hall of Famers in this game. All right, so now let's go to the Detroit Free Press, and let's get a close-up picture of Big Daddy Lipscomb himself. So the October 11th, 1959 edition of the Detroit Free Press. I mean, Big Daddy back in the day was a big dude. He weighed almost 280, which is nowadays for a defensive tackle is light. but he was still tall. He was a very imposing figure. Did not want that dude landing on you at all. All right, so let's go to Detroit Free Press, October 11, 1959. Okay, there we go. Gene, Big Daddy Lipscomb, the Colts' Big Daddy, awaits Lions with open arms. Colts are here. Lions, it's time to get moving. With a whip cracking over their heads, the Lions fight for their lives Sunday. They meet the world champion Baltimore Colts in their home debut at Briggs Stadium, and the weight of the battle is almost too much. Twice beaten, the Lions could fall completely out of the title contention, leave themselves no future at all if they lose again. But by winning, they could project themselves into the middle of the championship race. Victory means that much. Game time is 1:30 p.m., with 54,000 fans expected. All reserved seats have been sold, but 7,000 bleacher seats and 3,000 standing room tickets will go on sale at 11:30 a.m. George Wilson leaves no room for speculation on the Lions' future if they fail against the Colts. They already have been beaten by Baltimore 21-9 and Green Bay 28-10. So they scored only 19 points in their first two games. This game is a must for us, Wilson says. We have to win it. Because of this, Wilson has gone to the unusual extremes, berating the Lions' efforts, taking the play-calling chores from quarterback Tobin Rote, driving the club harder than ever in practice. Insiders note that the response, the Lions seem sharper, more eager, and determined than at any time this year. Win or lose, the feeling is that the Colts will know they've been in a game. This could, for that matter, develop into the toughest game of the year. Baltimore coach Weeb Ewbank, disturbed by the Colts' sluggishness, has chided his players all week, much as Wilson has done, and reports from the East say the Colts, too, are headhunting. Ooh. The Lions are not in the best physical condition, but Wilson says he will spare no one. Offensive center Charlie Ann will play despite a damaged knee because of the Lions sorely need his bulk. Defensive halfback Terry Barr and linebacker Jerry Perry, both with bad legs, will be used if necessary. A cheering note is that Yale Larry and Jim Steffen, defensive backs who missed the first two games, have recovered, giving the Lions' pass defense new strength. Baltimore lost to Chicago 26-21 last Sunday in a game which greatly changed the Western Division race. It gave hope and real possibilities to the Lions and prevented a Colt runaway such as the one which occurred in 1958. Moreover, it showed that the Colts had been taken by a hard-charging line which gets to quarterback Johnny Unitas before he can pass. The Bears did it by rocketing linebackers at Unitas. The Lions obviously hope to do the same. Detroit has beaten Baltimore only once in the last 5 games, that one being the memorable 31-27 miracle game here 2 years ago. The Colts present special problems because of Unitas, a peerless quarterback, Ray Berry and Jim Mutcheller, the best pair of ends in football, a magnificent set of offensive and defensive lines, and 2 brilliant backs, Lenny Moore and Alan Amici. Countering them, the Lions have few players so distinguished, but they are capable nonetheless. Rote relieved the play calling. Can concentrate now on execution. The Lion pass receiving group is bolstered by the return of Jim Doran, and the pass defense figures to be much improved. Wilson plainly is counting on continued great play by the defensive line, which has done its best to save the Lions from embarrassment. In their first meeting, the Lions almost matched the Colts in yardage, 339 to 334, and led in the second half 9-0 before Unitas cracked the Detroit secondary with 3 touchdown passes. Baltimore is a 7-point favorite, but the hunch player looks to the Lions for an upset. And then we got them elsewhere. All right. So then let's go to the October 11, 1959 edition of the Grand Rapids Press. Here we are, October 11, 1959, the Grand Rapids Press. Grand Rapids Press. Whoops. Another Michigan paper. Okay, shootout Lions and Colts to duel today. Fireworks are inevitable when the Detroit Lions and Baltimore Colts clash Sunday if a verbal spanking can light the fuse on a drowsy football team. It'll be Briggs Stadium opener for the Lions, who have had two sad ventures on the road. Both National Football League clubs spent the last week having their ears blistered by angry, disappointed coaches. Weeb Eubank of the world champion Colts was severe in his criticism after they fell to the Chicago Bears last Saturday. George Wilson had sharp words of warning for the Lions following a loss to the Green Bay Packers. Wilson indicated he was not too happy with the play of the Lions quarterbacks, both in play calling and execution, and that the coaches may be forced to call more of their shots from the bench and probably make some lineup changes. Wilson, however, will not name his starting quarterback until game time. Each coach is hoping his players respond to the tongue lashing in the manner of the Washington Redskins. 2 weeks ago, Coach Mike Nixon warned 19 Redskins they were in danger of being fired. The Skins roared out and upset the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a must game for both the Lions and the Colts. A third loss in as many starts would mean the Lions are just about out of the Western Division title race. Baltimore, the preseason favorite, has been a shadow of the championship team in 1958. The Lions had them on the run 2 weeks ago at Baltimore, but quarterback Johnny Unitas got hot in the second half, and the Colts won 21-9. A week ago, Unitas was bottled up until too late. Another defeat at the early stage would knock the Colts reeling. They'd be 2 games behind either the San Francisco 49ers or the Packers, depending on which wins their big meeting Sunday, Green Bay. Well, that would be the Packers would win that game. Unitas hasn't been showing the brilliant form that carried the Colts to glory last year. The little quarterback has been sporadic, and without Unitas as a passing threat, the running of Alan Amici, L.G. Dupree, and Lenny Moore hasn't been quite as effective. Yeah, I mean, it's basically it's one kind of sets. The passing of Unitas. Especially if you got more running pass patterns, but you got Raymond Berry out there. That just opens things up. But if they can get that running game going, my goodness. Just how freaking deadly they are. You got 3 of the greatest players of all time on that. Johnny Unitas, arguably, some people say maybe the greatest quarterback of all time. Lenny Moore, unbelievable. And, of course, Raymond Berry. 3, and then you got Jim Parker on the offensive line, too. But, 3 guys, and Alan Amici was, a former force, too, at running back, until he got injured in the 1960 season. But Lions folded miserably in each of their 2 games. They had a good chance to win both, but they couldn't sustain their attack. The Lions' injury situation has improved greatly since last Sunday. We'll have everyone ready for the Colts, Wilson said. Perhaps they won't be 100%, but they'll be available to play anyway. And Jim Doran will make his first appearance, boosting the Lions' aerial threat. Defensive back Yale Larry also will make his debut, tightening up the Lions where they've been weakest, the pass defense. Detroit has intercepted only 1 rival passes, but while losing 8 the same way. So they've had 8 passes picked off in the first 2 weeks. So. Also ready will be center Charlie Ann and defensive back Terry Barr. And of course, they would certainly throw some interceptions in this game as well too. All right, so let's what happens here? What happens in this game? Let's go to the Detroit Free Press. The October 12th, 1959 edition of the Detroit Free Press. Lions go under for 3rd time. (31-24). As Tobin wrote, I guess looks like I'm not sure if he has the ball. Looks like he has the ball in his hand. He's falling down. Boy, I tell you what, a Big Daddy comes and after he falls down and he comes flying on top. Man, feel sorry for the dude. So what do we got here? Little man, big day. Howard Hopalong Cassidy above clutches ball tightly to his chest after taking a 15-yard touchdown pass from Tobin Rote. The first of three he scored against the Colts. Carl Tassif makes desperate grab for Cassidy, but the Lion halfback twists free below and sends Tassif tumbling in the end zone. There it is. Twist free. In the end zone. Intercepted passes again for the Lions are the downfall. But Cassidy does snare three for touchdowns. Lions tried to roar Sunday, and what he did was choke to death. It's all over for the Detroit Lions. Their promised revival proved merely an empty wish as they bowed to the world champion Baltimore Colts 31-24 before 54,197 in Briggs Stadium. Betrayed by the arm of the quarterback, they suffered their third straight defeat in National Football League play and plummeted almost hopelessly out of the title contention against a team they simply had to beat. This, like the two earlier games, was one the Lions should have won. That they did not is another and sad reflection on the state of the Lions' passing arm. Tobin Rote, his sore left shoulder encased in tape, reached perhaps the low point of his long career, even though he heaved three touchdown passes to Hopalong Cassidy. When it was done, the tall Texan was booed roundly for his efforts by a crowd which had seen and worshipped him in finer moments. Rote was the GOAT. There's no escaping the fact. He whizzed a fireball pass into the arms of Baltimore's Andy Nelson while the Lions were leading 24-14 late in the third period and seemingly intent on busting up the Colts. When Nelson stopped running 33 yards later, the Colts suddenly were riding the Lions' tails 24-21, and a pending Detroit victory suddenly was in serious doubt. Within a minute, Rote threw into the hands of Colts again his third interception in the third period, and though this one cost the Lions nothing, it signaled their despair. George Wilson pulled Rote from the game, eventually settled on third stringer Jerry Reichow, normally a pass receiver. Wow. Reichow almost saved the day. Twice in the final period, he carried the Lions agonizingly close, once to the Colts' 3-yard line, but each time the Colts held firm. On the deepest drive, the Colts had a chance to pull out of reach again. Clinging to their 24-21 lead, they marched under Reichow's guidance from the Colt 43 after a fumble by Baltimore Colts quarterback Johnny U. Detroit had a first down on the 7. 3 smashes edged the ball to the 3. But then Reichow's fourth down pass sailed over the head of Cassidy in the end zone. I don't know why the hell I didn't go for a field goal, but it was after this failure that the Colts zoomed to their winning touchdown. Opening from their 20, the Lions' pass into the end zone let them out of the hole. The Colts charged to their 46 on the running Valenamici. Then United spotted Ray Berry standing in midfield at the Lion 40. Winged him a pass and watched the speedy end dodge the Lions for the remainder of the 53-yard play to the end zone. Baltimore was ahead 28-24. 7 minutes remained. The Lions still had a chance. Reichow threatening the Colts with passes ran instead. He sprinted 15 and then 46 yards, the last carrying down to the Colt 25. Here Wilson decided to call on Rote again. But Rote, all right, let's hold on. Yeah. Rote never had a chance. Twice he was smashed down by the surging Colt line, and the Lions finally yielded the ball back on the 42, their last effort ruined. Baltimore moved from there deep into Lion ground, and Steve Myra booted a 16-yard field goal, making the score 31-24. Earlier, the Lions had done much to suggest that they could take the Colts. They had a bad moment at the outset when, on the third play of the game, United shot a short pass to Lenny Moore. The fleet back twisted away from Jim David and raced 68 yards to a touchdown. Detroit bounced back on the strength of 3 road passes to Dorn and put Jim Martin in position for a 46-yard field goal, which reduced the Colt edge to 7-3. Early in the second period, United put the Colts in front 14-3 by producing an 80-yard march for a second touchdown. The score came on a 39-yard pass to Jim Mutcheller, who outraced Lion Jim Steffen to take the throw at the goal. Detroit's pass defense has been much maligned this season, but it was this department which gave the Lions life. Gary Lowe picked off a United's pass late in the second period to put Detroit at the Baltimore 38. A pass to Dorn carried to the 19, then Rote shot his first scoring pass to Cassidy as the tiny halfback whizzed across in front of the goal post from the right corner. Detroit went ahead 17-14 shortly before the half after rookie Nick Petrosani burst 31 yards down to the Colts' 49. Rote and John Henry Johnson ran for 31 yards before Rote found Cassidy waiting in the corner of the end zone 18 yards away and hit him for a touchdown. Another interception by Lowe early in the third period set up the third Rote-Cassidy score. Gary picked off United's pass at midfield and ran to the Baltimore 8. On the third play, Rote shot a 4-yard pass to Cassidy. How Rote lost the magic touch in the remaining time is still a mystery. For the day, he completed only 9 of 25 passes and had 3 interceptions. That makes 10 in 3 games. 10 interceptions he's thrown in 3 games. My goodness. And you can see right here, right? I mean, obviously the Colts had almost 400 yards of offense, or had over 400 yards of offense. The Lions had a little over 300. So they had 4 passes. The Lions had 4 more passes picked off. They're only 10 out of 30 throwing the ball. I mean, United's only completed 13 passes, but they went. Well, it seems like a lot of times when he completes them, that they go for big yardage. So the Lions lost a fumble and they had 4 passes intercepted. So then they had 5 passes picked. So I think they had 10. They've had 10 turnovers. They had, I believe it was, in their 2 games against the Colts. Tough to win football games that way. As you see, of course, the Lions had a 24-21 lead going into the last quarter. And Colts scored 10 points, and once again, they had a chance. All right, so now we're going to go to the Baltimore Sun, the October 12th, 1959 edition of the Baltimore Sun. All right. Okay, here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, well. Let's refresh the page once again. Colts rally in the second half to whip the Lions 31-24. United's DeBerry pass covers 54 yards for a decisive touchdown. Here's good old Lenny Moore. Fumble trouble. Lenny Moore, Colt halfback, fumbles ball after taking a handoff from Johnny Unitas on the second play of the second quarter. Jim Mutcheller, though, however, recovered for Baltimore on the Detroit 40-yard line. Jim David of Detroit is making the tackle on Moore. Play gain 9 yards. So, sometimes it's it can be a little bit of luck too. Here he takes a handoff, right? He gets a few yards, wherever the ball pops out, goes forward, and of course your team recovers. Not the So sometimes it does help to have a little bit of luck, but it is what it is. Nelson tallies on interception. Myra kicks 3-pointer and comeback. Colt defense halts Detroit's 4th period bid. Although starting fast, the Colts still had to rally for 17 points in the last half to overcome a stubborn Lion football team, 31-24, at Briggs Stadium today before a crowd of 54,197. Goal line stand by the defense, Andy Nelson's 32-yard scoring interception and an 80-yard, 8-play touchdown drive capped by a 54-yard pass and run from Unitas to Berry, put the Colts over the hump. Steve Myra's last-minute field goal from 17 yards out was just additional paving over Baltimore's bumpy road to a 2-1 record in National Football League play. Of the three key situations, the goal line stand of the Colts defense in the fourth period probably was the thing that gave the Colts the incentive to stage the late rally. Nelson's scoring interception after 10:29 in the third period pulled the Colts back in the game, only 3 points off the Lions' pace at 24-21. And the 80-yard drive featuring Berry's great run of 39 yards after he'd caught the Unitas pass sealed the verdict and made the Lions' gallant bid to get out of the cellar just a little bit harder. Lions had now lost their first 3 games, with Baltimore twice being the villain. About the goal line stand, the Lions running over and around the Colts defense as if the Baltimore team wasn't even on the field, drove to a first down on the Colts 7 early in the fourth quarter. Touchdown at this time would have given the Lions a nearly insurmountable lead at 31-21. The Colt defense, the best in the league last year, rose up and stopped the Lions dead. A last play in the end zone tossed by Jerry Reichow, who replaced Tobin Rote at quarterback, sailed out of the end zone. With such a defensive performance as an example, the Colt offense, spotty despite good protection by the offensive line, went to work. A third down pass to Berry gave the Colts a first down lift from their 20 out to the 34. 2 Allen Amici drives produced another first down out to the 47. Then, after 2 plays lost a yard, Unitas caught Berry in the clear on the Lions' 39. Berry, pumping his long legs, raced from the middle of the field toward the right end zone corner. At the 5, he ran into his own interference, but pulled clear to stagger into the end zone, giving Baltimore the lead again for the first time since the tail end of the first half. Unitas showed some improvement in his passing, but the 2 interceptions he threw set up 2 line touchdowns in the second and third periods. However, the Colts secondary, all right, let's go to, let's see here. Another October 12th, 1959 edition of the Baltimore Sun. I'm apparently going to go to page 21. Here's Road again getting nailed. Tobin Rote Lions goes up in the air to pass as Bill Pellington, Colt linebacker, charges him. Pellington deflected the pass, which went out of bounds. So what do we have here? However, the Colts secondary grabbed 4 Detroit passes to more than even up the score. Unitas completed 13 of 25 attempts at 257 yards and 3 touchdowns. His other 2 aerial scores were tallied on a 68-yard play to Lenny Moore and a 39-yard toss to Mutt Scheller. So, when they score, they're long in length. The one to Berry was over 50 yards. This one's almost 70 yards. This one's 40 yards. For a time, it looked like the line rollout play would be the undoing of the Colts. Returning to the opening kickoff with an advancing fumble to their own 24, the Colts got moving in a hurry, covering the last 76 yards in just 3 plays. The big one was a pass from Unitas to Moore, who faked slanting in, then pivoted out of Jim David's arms and caught the aerial on the 34 and outstepped the Lions' defense to score. The play covered 68 yards. Myra converted, and the Colts led 7-0 after just 2 minutes and 5 seconds have gone by. But the Lions, desperate for a victory, bounced right back on the passing of Rote to get a field goal. Martin was the foot behind the 3-pointer, which would just clear the goalpost for 47 yards out. Late in the first period, the Colts started a drive from their own 17, which culminated in a touchdown after 3 minutes and 35 seconds of the second period had elapsed. The payoff pitch was good for 39 yards from Unitas to Mutt Scheller, who had streaked between the two line defenders and grabbed the aerial on the 3-yard line to fall into the end zone. Moments after the ensuing kickoff, the Colts had the Lions ready for the coup de grace when Nelson recovered a fumble on the Detroit 44. But Unitas gave the ball back to the Lions a big lift by throwing an interception to Lowe, who almost got away, being down finally on the Colt 35. 5 plays later, Rote hit Cassidy on the goal line, and Cassidy stepped into the end zone despite Tassif hanging onto him. Walker kicked the extra point, and the Colt lead was shaved to 3 points and with 9:52 gone in the second quarter. Late in the period, the Lions went ahead on an 80-yard drive on just 5 plays. The first 3 plays gained 52 yards via the ground. Rote then went to the air for the 18-yard pitch to Cassidy and the touchdown that put the Lions ahead 17-14, with just a minute and 31 seconds left in the half. The Colts were just a staggering bulk of 1958 championship team as the third quarter began. Even a great break when Nelson intercepted Rote's first pass after the second half kickoff failed to snap their lethargy. Perhaps the Unitas hadn't returned the ball several plays later on Gary Lowe's interception and a run of 40 yards down to the Colt 8. Baltimore might not have been in such a shape a couple of plays later when Rote hit Hopalong Cassidy, who scored all 3 Lion touchdowns with a 4-yard pass into the end zone. Colts dove back down the field with the kickoff, reaching the line 23, but a 4th down field goal attempt by Myra from the 30 was wide. Then Nelson gave new lift to the Colts' flickering hopes by stealing a road pass and racing unmolested into the end zone for 32 yards away. That touchdown and the following extra point cut the Lions' lead 3 points down to 3 points, 24-21. But the Lions weren't dead. Starting from the Colt 44 after recovering a fumble by Unitas, the Lions, with Reichow at the throttle, boomed down to the Colt 7 at the beginning of the fourth quarter. Here the Colt line put on its best demonstration of the short season and turned back 4 Detroit attempts to score. The last play was an incompleted pass out of the end zone, giving the Colts the ball on their own 20. From that point, the Colts started a drive that was to be climaxed with a 54-yard pass and run touchdown to Berry, who steered a good course into romping the final 39 yards into the end zone. Near the end of a couple of passes and runs moved the Colts down to the Lion 9, and Myra came in on the last down to boot a 17-yard field goal to end the scoring for the day. And we got another story here. So let's go back here. This is another story here. The Baltimore Sun. Okay, where are we at here? Played best game, said Wilson. Lion coach wanted shot at Berry on scoring pass. The measure of frustration felt by the Detroit Lions after today's 31-24 loss to the Colts was best shown by their head coach, George Wilson. Pleasant and cooperative despite his team's third straight loss, Wilson's bitterness seeped through the thinner veneer of affability. It's easily the best game we played this year, he said. Without a trace of a smile, he added, I wish Berry had been near our bench when he caught that pass. I'd taken a crack at him myself. There was a mixture of hope for the future and keen disappointment in Wilson today. The 45-year-old coach won the National Football League championship in '57 in his first year as Detroit's head coach, and things have gone steadily worse since then. We should have had Berry. We had 4 or 5 cracks at him. I'd have gotten him, Wilson said. The pass from quarterback Johnny Unitas to Raymond Berry resulted in a touchdown. It sent the Colts in front 28-24 in the fourth quarter, and the Lions never recovered. It was a great effort by Berry, who never gave up. Not blessed with great speed and still bothered by a leg injury, Berry just kept going, getting fine blocks from Mutt Scheller and Jerry Richardson. Play covered 54 yards with Berry running 40 of them while fighting off Lion defenders. Wilson said he never considered going for a field goal in the fourth quarter when the Lions reached the Colt 2-yard line. With fourth down, Jerry Reichout tried a pass that sailed too high and the Lions withdrew. The score was 24-21, and the field goal would have made it 27-21. Doesn't pay to play cautious football against the Colts, Wilson said. You've got to score him when you're playing against Unitas. He comes up with that clutch play all the time. We had Reichout in there then because Tobin Rote hurt his left shoulder in the second quarter and wasn't feeling right. We put Earl Morrill in there in place of Rote, and somebody stuck a finger in his eye on that first play. Wow. All right, so let's go back here. Oh, boy. It's kind of one. Earl Morrill was the second stringer. I mean, where was he at? Well, I guess that took. I guess that answers that. Put Earl Morrill in there, your backup quarterback, and he gets a finger stuck in his eyeball. Ooh. So Morrill couldn't see, so we had to send in Reichout. Rote went in again after Reichout ran to the Colt 25 because we felt Rote could do the job. After all, Reichout had the team down on the Colt 2 and couldn't take them in. Rote was the man for the job. Rote never had a chance that late in the game. However, the Colt line pushed right in on him, and the ball eventually wound up on the Colt 42 where Baltimore took over. The score was 28-24 at the time, and Steve Meyer later kicked a 16-yard field goal. On the Colts goal line stand, Coach Weeb Eubank had this to say: I'm darn glad Rote wasn't in there. They had a first down on our 7, and you don't often stop Rote from there. He knows how to take them in. I don't want to take anything away from Reichout's running, but our tackling was pitiful, Weebeck said. Incidentally, the Lions are getting much better. They're going to give some teams a lot of trouble. I'm damn glad to get rid of them for the season. Wilson said exactly the same thing about the Colts. The Detroit coach still couldn't hide his disappointment despite knowing his club played good football against the world champions. Unitas threw about 4 wild passes, he said. That's far above his average, but we just didn't take advantage of them. The Colts are going to be tough to beat from here on in. The offensive line played much better today, giving Unitas ample protection most of the time. This protection is indispensable to a successful passing attack, a point fully proven on Baltimore's second touchdown in the second quarter. The pass from Unitas was good for 39 yards to Jim Mutscheller, the former Notre Dame star, got behind Jim Steffen, a rookie from UCLA, caught the ball on the 2 and stumbled into the end zone. I was pretty sure I could get clear of Steffen, Mutscheller said. He was playing too tight, and when I left the huddle, I told John I was going to take off. I had been wide open before, and this time I went right down the center, and I got behind him. The point is, though, that John had plenty of time to throw the ball. The line gave me time to get clear and gave John time to find me. There were a couple of unusual plays in today's game. The Lions had an apparent touchdown call back in the second quarter when Hopalong Cassidy caught a pass and went into the Colt end zone. However, the pass had been deflected by a teammate, Jim Durant. Oh, the rule book states a pass is no good, which is true, when 2 offensive players touch it consecutively. Yep. In the third period, the Lions scored their third and last touchdown, a 5-yard pass from Rote to Cassidy. Cassidy did a terrific job getting free into the end zone. Rote had plenty of time to throw, and Cassidy slipped into the corner behind Carl Tassif. Then Cassidy made a move toward the center of the end zone, and Carl headed that way also. Cassidy stopped, went back to the corner, and took Rote's bullet pass for the score. Tassif picked up the ball, and as the official stretched out his arms to take the pigskin from Tassif, he got it right in the stomach, hard from the Colt defensive back, who was sore about the touchdown. It cost the Colts 15 yards on the kickoff for all of the things, a personal foul on an official. Don Joyce, the Colt defensive end, may have suffered a sprained ankle. He was injured in the second quarter but returned to the game in the second half. Alan Amici suffered a Charlie horse on the third play of the game, and it stiffened up on him on the plane coming home. And I think, let's see, that would be it. All right, for that. Okay, so now we got, all right, a little more fast reading here. Let me try to share the screen. We got the window. All right, window. Where are we at here? No, that's not it. Wait, the entire screen. No, is that it? Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. Now, what the heck? I was kind of wondering what the heck went on. There we go. Let's try this again. All right, one more time here. Share the screen. I couldn't find it. Window. Here we go. Let's try this again here. There we go. All right. This is the Detroit News, the October 12th, 1959 edition of the Detroit News. George Wilson's job is in jeopardy in his third year as coach of the Detroit Lions. One good sign in Wilson's favor is that the owners of the Lions still are visiting the dressing room. President Edwin J. Anderson, Treasurer Lyle Fife, and lesser executives shared the gloom of the Detroit clubhouse after yesterday's 31-24 defeat by the champion Colts. Keep your chin up, the somber Anderson ordered Wilson. Don't let your spirits get down, commanded the unfrivolous Fife. Outside the clubhouse portals, another big stockholder had muttered openly, "We gave that one away." The last Lion coach to lose his job, Buddy Parker, quit, remember, was the late Bo McMillan. Also, that last Lion coach to have two losing seasons in a row. Wilson's record was 4-7-1 in 1958 and is now 0-3 with the only pro team that hasn't won a game this season. So, the mighty have fallen. World champions in 57, and apparently they're 4-10-1 in their last 15 games since that championship game. In McMillan's case, the end came when the owners quit coming to the clubhouse. "Where's everybody?" McMillan asked one December Sunday in 1950 after losing to the Bears. The owners didn't show up. They were meeting elsewhere to prepare McMillan's walking papers. Bo was out the same day. Obviously, Wilson can battle his way back in a heartless league where they don't let you up when you get down. But chances are against a spectacular rally. This is Detroit's worst start since the 0-6 record in 1955. The Lions finished dead last at 3-9 that year. Hopalong Cassidy caught 3 touchdown passes from Tobin Rote yesterday in a scoring burst, usually good enough to win. But the Lions had to let the peerless Johnny Unitas throw 2 of his 3 touchdown passes in the first half to give Baltimore a commanding 11-point lead in the middle of the second quarter. Lions played their hearts out and came storming back to take a 10-point lead in the third period. It was a stirring performance, particularly by Cassidy. What beat the Lions was faulty execution of pass plays. The Colts, after seizing 5 interceptions in the opening 21-9 victory over the Lions 2 weeks ago, stole the ball 4 times yesterday. All told, the Lions had given up 12 interceptions in 3 games. This means erratic throwing by the quarterbacks and unsteady running of pass patterns by receivers. "Oh, those interceptions," moaned Wilson. 4 more today will break a record. For the sake of curious, the combined Cardinals-Pittsburgh team in the 1944 war season coughed up 41 interceptions for the National Football League record. But to be also think about it, I think that might have been a 10-game schedule too. So to throw 41 interceptions in a 10-game schedule, I think it might have been, because during the war years, everything was the amount of games played, the talent level went down too, because a lot of guys were out at war. Lions have played 1/4 of a season. 4 times 12 is 48 interceptions. Wilson's hunch could be right. Rote has been victimized for 10 interceptions. Earl Morrall and Jerry Reichow, a surprise finisher quarterback yesterday, have given up 1 each. Rote is forewarned that the most interceptions for one man in a season in Detroit is 23. The one who holds this is the competitive Bobby Lane. His bad year was 1951, before the Lions started winning championships in a rather regular rotation. From the Baltimore viewpoint, this was the turning point and possibly another championship season. Unitas surpassed 500% efficiency for the first time this season, as he was 13 out of 25 for 257 yards and 3 touchdowns. Twice Unitas wriggled for a precious half yard on fourth down risk in the third period. Alan Amici got 65 yards and Lenny Moore with 53 yards. Both ran on the Lions. Raymond Berry caught 6 passes, practically all on third down, and snaking his way through arm-tackling Lions for the 53-yard winning touchdown in the last 8 minutes of the game. We beat a fired-up good team, said Coach Weeb Eubank. This comeback may help us like the one we had last year. Green Bay had us licked 17-0, and we came on to win the game. That gave us the big boost for the championship. For the second year in a row, the Colts have swept the 2 games with the Lions. Up to that surge, Baltimore never had won at Briggs Stadium. It was a tough day for Detroit's quarterback. Rope bruised his left shoulder a few plays before halftime. Earl Morrall got a bony finger poked in his eye. In this emergency, Reichow, discarded as a quarterback and wearing a receiver's number 87 on his uniform, came trotting off the bench. Reichow's legs were more deadly than his arm. In a surprise attack, he reeled off 73 yards in 4 running attempts at the start of the fourth quarter. He manipulated the Lions inside the 10-yard line. Detroit envisioned widening its 24-21 lead. It was rah-rah for Reichow. Danny Lewis and Ken Webb were Reichow's helpers as the Lions reached to 2. It was 4th down. Wilson called a pass from the bench. Alas, Reichow couldn't get the ball away. Finally, he overshot Cassidy in the end zone. I was ready to flip the pass to Lewis, Reichow explained. A big lineman got in the way, so I rolled out, hoping to find a receiver. It didn't pan out. At this juncture, the United took over for the big touchdown to Berry. With 61 seconds to go, Steve Myra, whose toe sent the Colts into sudden death success in the 58 championship game with the Giants, booted a 16-yard field goal to wrap up the scoring. And then we got Alan Amici here running. Alan Horse Amici grinds through for a gain in the first quarter. Scoring score of the day, Howard Hopalong Cassidy, shown here for his 3rd touchdown after a 3rd quarter pass from Rote. Here's some of the faithful right here. As they waited in vain for a Lion victory in their first home game. John Henry Johnson right here, picking up some yardage. He cracks through for 14 yards in the first quarter. Phone in hand, Lion coach George Wilson prepares ascending guard Mike Raybold with instructions on the next play. Aides in the press box help Wilson call the shots. So, one thing that was happening was Rote was calling the pass, the plays, but you score 19 points in your first 2 games, and the play calling duty from Rote got taken away. So, but he was playing banged up. Of course, then Earl Morrall went in there, was a very capable backup quarterback. He got a finger stuck in his eyeball, and he wasn't able to see. So then Jerry Reichow, they put him in there, who was an end, who in the exhibition season, participated as a quarterback. But they went in there with 2 quarterbacks, so they put Reichow, made him an end. But he's the emergency 3rd string quarterback, which obviously they needed in this game. And as I said, he was not well known for throwing the football. Running, yeah, but in one of those things, it was like, when they got down to the 2-yard line, instead of trying to kick a field goal, maybe to make the score 27-21, they went for it. It failed. But, one of those things is, when you throw that many interceptions against the Colts, usually they're going to wind up making you pay, and it did in this game. And so the Colts were after this week with 2-1, and at the Detroit Lions, they were off to an 0-3 start, and it was going to be a long, long season for the 1957 NFL champions. So that's the way it was on this date, October 11th, 1959, as the Baltimore Colts played the Detroit Lions at Briggs Stadium in pro football. First 50 years. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.